everyone. Welcome to Chart Attack. This is Vishal from Equity Guru, and I'm recording this on June 7th. And as you can see, the markets have closed green for the day. Let's take a look at how the S&P 500 is faring. You can see some losers here with Amazon and Walmart, Home Depot there, but a lot of green all around. However, don't let that fool you. Don't let that think that, markets are here ripping. When we take a look at the charts, especially, if you are a reader of Equity Guru or if you are part of our Discord channel, you sort of know what we're watching or what we have been watching in these past few days here. And there's already a term going around right now calling it the summer of chop or the summer of choppiness, just referring to the choppy price action here that we have on stock markets, that we have on the US dollar, and we also have on Bitcoin. We'll cover all three charts. Very simple, scenario here, but essentially we have no direction of movement as of now. I mean, a lot of people are obviously favoring upside momentum, but right now it's a wait and see approach, and markets have just been ranging for almost 2 full trading weeks here. You see here, I have the chart of the S&P 500, my favorite market chart, just because it gives a better picture of the broader movement in the markets. And, this is a chart many people have been talking about, and it is the weekly time frame. So we have our head and shoulder reversal pattern here on the S&P 500. Once again, this reversal pattern has not been seen since 2007 on the weekly time frame of the S&P 500. We broke down a few weeks ago below 4,200, which gave us our big move down to 3,800. And I'm looking at the SPX. So if you are looking at SPY or SPY, just chop off 10 at the end there. So we're talking about 420 rather than 4,200 or 4,200 here. But we had that drop down to 3,800. We had a big week on the week or the final week of May, getting a lot of people excited, right? Saying, hey, this is the bull trend is starting. But I warn people, hey, this is just the relief or the bounce that we wanted to see here as we go up to 4,200. And you can see the following week, once again, this is a weekly candle, not much price action. We were attempting to get back above 4,200, but we just could not break above it. And instead, we just ranged between the lows of 4073.8 and the highs of 4204.1 for all of last week. And this is, as of now, the current weekly candle, but we still have a few more trading days before this candle closes. As you can see, all we're waiting for is that close back above 4,200 on a weekly time frame. So we want to see a break and close above this level by the end of Friday to confirm that we have now climbed back above what was the neckline of the S&P 500. So just a major technical pattern that, technically on the weekly chart, we are still favoring more downside. We say that because that is how these head and shoulder patterns, structurally move. We have that move back to resistance, and we expect, a sell-off and a continuation. But what nullifies that is if we get a close back above 4,200, and then that level is taken out. If we go on the daily chart, you see the choppiness. I mean, it's very apparent here what's happened. And again, this is why it gets a bit tricky, because on a daily time frame, a lot of people are saying, hey, look, we have our double bottom here. It looks like we broke out and we're, waiting for a continuation. But as you guys know, the higher the time frame, the better the signal. So the weekly chart is what takes precedent, or it takes, it's more stronger than, say, the daily chart or the 4-hour chart or the 5-minute, obviously. So a very big level on that weekly chart. And you can see, we are knocking on 4,200 here on the daily. We try to break above it, but we get rejected every time we do so. So on the day we're recording, we're bouncing at this interim support at 40.88 here. But we're going to see, we have to wait and see if we can actually get a close above 4,200. So a week or weeks of chop. Summer is just, beginning. We're just beginning June, but a lot of people are already calling this the summer of chop or the summer of choppiness. And let's take a look at the US dollar, because that's a chart that I've been following for quite some time. And, we see the same sort of choppiness here as well. So we are expecting, again, just from a technical perspective, a weaker dollar here, right? The dollar has had an amazing run, and I believe there's just going to be a bit of a pullback here in the dollar, right? Long term, I think the dollar is still going higher, but I think there's going to be a bit of a relief rally here in the dollar. 102.50 on the Dixie chart, the DXY, the US dollar index, is that resistance level that we are working with, which broke down on May 23rd. We've pulled back to retest 102.50, but as you can see, we failed to close above it, right? We attempted in the beginning of June, sold off on June 2nd, and we actually attempted on June 7th here. We were actually above 102.50. A lot of people were getting excited, right? Okay, yeah, the dollar is finally, going to break out or, nullify this little relief rally, and all the dollar bulls were happy, saying, yes, we're going to go long the dollar. But as you can see, this is why we wait for candles to close. And instead, the dollar sold off and closed back above that key 102.50 level. So what we are expecting is a drop lower here in the dollar as long as this 102.50 level holds. And I'm still approaching the dollar as, like a risk asset here, right? Safe haven asset. So I think if the dollar does decline, then that possibly means that the S&P 500 and the other stock markets break above the upper portion of that resistance for the S&P 500, 4,200. So an inverse correlation here, I guess you can say, with the dollar and the markets. If the dollar drops, the markets will rise higher, because I think the dollar right now is seen as sort of this gauge to measure fear and uncertainty. So let's watch to see if this dollar does drop. But again, just this week, for a couple of weeks of just choppiness here, where the dollar is still, determining what it wants to do. Does it want to break out and reverse, or does it want to continue the relief downtrend here? And the same can be said about Bitcoin. I know a lot of Bitcoin people don't like the idea of Bitcoin being, a risk-on asset, but that's the way it has been acting, and it's been ranging much longer than the S&P 500 and the dollar. And of course, there is other issues with, say, stable coins that are breaking down, with Luna and such. But Bitcoin's just been ranging between 28,000 here to the downside, and this resistance level that I have marked at 31,674, and we just failed to break above it. So a summer of chop on everything here, on Bitcoin, on the dollar, on the stock market. And I think the important one that I'm watching is that US dollar chart, because if that continues to reject, then possibly we'll see that breakout on the stock market. And if Bitcoin is acting as a risk-on asset, meaning that it follows what the stock market does, it'll also see a breakout on Bitcoin as well. So market of chop right now, a lot of choppiness. I know there's a lot of frustrated traders out there, but there are time periods like this where we see a long range. The summer markets tend to be sort of like that. But all I can recommend is, be patient, wait for these breakouts here. Don't, be someone trying to front run these breakouts, because as you know, if we are just chopping, you can get, you can see a sell-off from the top of that portion of resistance very quickly, same at support. But, for you guys who want to play ranges, maybe there's something you can do by selling at resistance and buying at support. But again, one day, one of these ranges, or all these ranges, sorry, are going to break. But that's all I want to leave you guys with. Let me know what you guys think of this summer of chop right now. And what direction do you think all these assets are going to go? Bitcoin, stock market, or the S&P 500 in particular, and of course that US dollar chart. I'm just sitting on the sidelines here, waiting patiently for that breakout and just trading other currency pairs that are in a trend right now. All right, folks, I'll catch you guys all in the next chart attack video.